So just to start, since we are in Milan, I just wanted to show a picture of Rome, just because they are the two main cities in Italy. And then you understand at the end why I'm showing Rome and specifically why I'm showing the Colosseum. Quick information about the economics. We are about to vote on Sunday, so I will not spend too much time on this, because otherwise I will show that maybe the government did a good job, so I don't want to give this impression. But the main idea I want to give is that we have a positive GDP growth, even if we are not in the top countries in Europe, but still it's positive after many years of a recession. It's true that when you look at the components of the GDP, there are some differences. We still have problems with investment, while exportations are working quite well. In terms of employment, we had an increase in employment, but also finally there is something that we are starting to do about bad debt. So the banks are starting to work on these important assets. In terms of stock exchange and interest, the stock exchange is performing quite well. And something that we started to look, especially at the beginning of the year, to see if there was some pressure about the financial market on Italy, especially because the elections are arriving or approaching. And we see that except at the end of 2017, the PTP in Italy 10 years stands around 2%. So at the moment there is no pressure on the financial market due to what appears to be an uncertain period that we will face starting from Monday. Talking a little bit about the market, and starting from the residential market, that is for us normally the less important, but normally the more important for two reasons. One, because we need to leave everybody of us in the market, in the house, and secondly because it represents really a big part of the real estate. Two information: the number of deals, market is recovering. There are more deals being recorded in the market, while on the average prices are stabilizing, or should start to stabilize in the coming year. It's true that if we look in different cities, and especially in the different sub-markets, we can see that in the central cities like Milan and Rome, there are some more good positive informations, transactions that are happening, also prices that can go up, while in other cities or in the sub-markets, things are not going so well. But still. An important thing about the Italian residential market is the tenant status. That means if you look on the left, from Italy stands how many people here they own their house, and how much they own but they have a mortgage. That means that around 75% of the people own their own house, while the rest is, let's say, people that are tenants at the market price or at the reference price. It's interesting to see the cities on the left from Italy, mainly Central and more Eastern Europe, while you can find Germany and the UK on the right. So you can see that in this part, that can be maybe a clue for a question for the panel, there is, let's say, a tenant market in Italy that a lot of investors are looking to invest in the residential just to, let's say, take part about this tenant market. But the problem is that it's quite little compared to the one in Germany or in the UK. Going now at the real estate market, the commercial real estate market, this is what we recorded in the last 11 years. So a market that is performing quite well. Another record year also in 2017 with 11.3 billion recorded. A market that is very interesting in terms of products. So companies, investors are buying almost every kind of products, mainly offices as usual, retail. And it's interesting in retail that it's not the classical shopping centers, but more high street retail. We had a lot of transactions about high street retail last year, which is good because it was a sector in the retail market where investors wanted to enter, but it was more closed because it was more dominated by private investors. But also we can see a lot of asset classes, logistics, because companies want to, they see that in Italy, what people buy online is quite little compared to other markets. So they think that in the future we will have to increase that share. So it will be important to have a logistics that will follow this increase of the market. But there are also other markets like hospitality that's performing quite well. We had a record year last year, but I will see it later on, but also other kind of products. It's true that Milan remains the main market. Rome is standing more or less there, but it's not increasing so much. International investors are arriving in Italy. They start looking in Milan, and unfortunately they don't go to Rome, while because they don't see a market that is going well. They are not. They don't believe in the office market, so it's quite complicated for them to enter in the Roman market. While in Milan, they recognize a market that works well, that works like other European cities. Where do they come from, these investors? They come from many countries, but mainly from the United States, quite important, from France and from the UK. And what do they buy? Normally, they buy every kind of assets. They buy some bank agencies also, some barracks. They buy some, obviously, office and retail. But they're really looking at every kind of product. So foreign investors are really open on everything. They also invested a lot in care homes. So they're not aware about finding new product, because the problem is that there is not enough products. What the impact of this activity on the market is obviously the reduction for the yields. So yields are arriving at very low levels. And if you look on the right, the risk premium, we passed from a level at the end of 2011 when the risk premium was negative, to a level that is quite interesting, because in any case you've got a risk premium of 100 basis points compared to the 10-year bonds. So it's quite an interesting moment to invest in the market. What we're expecting for the future is that these yields should not go below this level, especially because the risk premium is at this level, and there are expectations for increasing for the 10-year bonds, but we will see. Let's look a little bit now at the office investment market. Where investors buy for an office? Normally they buy it in, as I was saying before, in Milan and in Rome. It's quite rare to find an investment in offices outside of these two cities. This is because investors are not confident about the market in these other cities. But what kind of office do they buy? In any case, here I wanted to show the rental situation in Rome and Milan. Let's start from Milan, because it happened before. So when there was a crisis and at the beginning of the recovery, investors were buying offices that were fully let, or almost fully let. Then they started to invest in offices totally vacant or partially vacant. This was because they wanted to create new products. And this process started in 2015, and it's continuing in the last years, a little bit last year, but you can see it. And also if you work in the city, you can see that there are a lot of works in offices. For example, in Piazza Cordusio, not all the buildings, but most of them are under refurbishment or should be put on the market again. This didn't happen in Rome because investors were not confident of the market, but it increased a little bit last year. So are we 2 years back from Milan or no? This we will see this year if investors will continue to invest in Rome in offices empty and create new products that could be useful for the market. Looking around, looking at the buildings and the refurbishment here in the area, you can see that there are many of them under refurbishment. This is the side of the building. This is the year when they will arrive in the market, and this is the level of the rents. So you can see the prime rent actually for me it's at 520. But you can see that there are buildings that are where the asking rents are well above, almost reaching 600 euros. So it will be interesting to see if all these buildings, after when the contract will be closed, what will be the rents, because it will be really important to see if they achieve this rent, and who are the companies that really achieve this rent. Because if you look around, there are many square meters available, but we will see if there will be enough companies to rent all these assets. A quick view on the hotel market, since we will have a person from specialist of the hotel market in the panel, just to give some information. The market was quite important last year. Investors are working on existing hotels, 5-star and 4-star hotels, to refurbish them and to reposition them on the market, but they're also working on creating new products. There is quite good interest about creating hotels in Rome, in the different areas that are Via Veneto, and the problem is to find the right products for them. The situation in Milan is quite different. because in the center of Milan, it's still more interesting to do some offices, while in the real center of Rome, it's more interesting doing hotels in terms of rents that you can achieve. This is the kind of tourist. So Italy is performing well in terms of tourists. Well, there are bad news about, if you look at the geopolitical situation, there are really bad news about what is happening on the other side of the Mediterranean coast. But this is important because all the tourists that were going on in that areas, now they have to go in other places. And so Italy can attract these tourists, about Italians that are not going abroad, but also people from abroad that can come to Italy. So it's important to attract these tourists. And we have also to create the structure or reposition the structure to this new tourist that could arrive. Another asset class that are the others that normally you put in there is when there is not a specific, not large transaction that you can record in the years. And if you look at these asset classes, mainly there are two asset classes that emerge, that are the care homes and the broadcasting operation center. The broadcast operation center normally are rented to TIM. They are well located in the cities normally, and the problem is that they cannot. Well, they have to be. They could be transformed into offices or into residential assets because they are well located in the city. The other one is the care homes that are with the increasing of the age of the population, and also the changing of the families. Families are reducing the number of sons. They're also moving more, so the parents are not living exactly in the same city of the sons. So this is a market that is quite improving. There are companies that are doing sale and lease back in order to have more cash to invest in and create more investments. And so this is something that is attracting the interest also by investors that are looking at this asset. It's quite particular, you really have to know, because the problem is that the healthcare in Italy is regional, so you have to understand how it works in every region. But in any case, it can give quite good interest, quite good yield. And this is here you see really the increasing of the population. This is the ratio between the population over 55 with the population below 40 years. And you can see that, well, it's something that we all knew, that when you look at the number, and also you look where we will be in 12 years, there will have be the double of people, both 65 years compared to the young people. But you can see that in any case, the system that we are always criticizing, the healthcare system in Italy, you can see that the system is slowly reorganizing. So we are, let's say, rationalizing the system, adapting, creating new hospitals. For example, if you look in Torino, they are thinking about to do a new Parco della Salute in an area, so more or less abandon the existing hospitals, some existing hospitals, create a new one, and do it, adapt it to the new kind of healthcare that you can do, but also creating quite efficient more products. So this is a market where you can work. This is some slides that I took from INREV with the investment intentions, just to understand what could be the trends in the coming years. So you can see that there are a lot of capitals that want to be invested in 2018 all around Europe. And you can see that there is a quite good interest about Italy. And also when we meet investors, there are a lot of investors that are coming in Italy, even if there is still a problem of finding the right product for them, but there is quite a good interest for investors to come to Italy. What do they want to buy is that obviously they want to buy offices and retail, but they're really looking to look at a lot of products, also student accommodation and healthcare, so they really want to diversify, and they also want to look some residential. So it will be, especially for this asset class, it will be interesting to see if they will manage to invest in residential in Italy or not. And if you split it by the different kind of investors, so if you look at all the investors, the German investor and the fund manager, all these are looking at mainly offices and retail, and more the Italians are looking at student accommodation and healthcare. So these are a little bit the intentions for this year. And but it's quite good positive from them. And this is my last slide, is that starting from the beginning, so why I wanted to put the Colosseum at the beginning, is that because it's an excellent example of value added, because at the beginning it was a circus, so there were people fighting inside the Colosseum, as you know. Then in the Middle Ages it was used to build a new palace in Rome. So this was the situation. It also became a fortress also. And finally, it's used for concerts. So I didn't manage to go inside because it was quite expensive to be among the, I think, 200 persons that could assist to Paul McCartney concert in there. But fortunately, the day after, he did the concert outside for free. So I went the day after. I was a student, so I couldn't afford at the time. But I don't know, even not now, because it was quite expensive in any case. And it's the monument with the Palatine that is more visited in Italy. So you can see that a monument almost built 2,000 years ago can still have value, and you can work on it in the time. So this is just to give an idea. Thank you.